We are finally here. This is the last of our series with Zotac and NVIDIA, and this one is all around the 4070 Ti Super. But what better way to show off an awesome GPU than to build a beautiful build around it and also showcase some amazing new parts in the process. Enter the Corsair 2500x case that we are using to showcase the Arctic Zotac 4070 Ti Super Trinity OC. Not to mention that we are also using all IQ Link parts and including the brand new RX 120 IQ Link fans that will ultimately result in a powerful, beautiful, and small-ish build that will only cost $2,100. Which, before we go too much further, if you like seeing new cases with the latest and greatest components, why not go ahead and slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring the notification bell so that you get notifications when we post videos like this right here on Robeytech. Does this build sound too good to be true? Well, let's check in and see if I can deliver what I promised. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the third episode with Zotac. It has been quite a journey. Today, Corsair stepped up and they're like, you know what? We haven't done a build inside of the 2500X. To use a white build and with a white GPU, you know that you're gonna be absolutely happy. And so this is gonna be a stunning build, really excited about it. And again, this one is gonna be around the 4070 Ti Super. And let's go ahead and start getting our build ready. So we're gonna grab our parts for our build, including our motherboard and all that sort of stuff. Boom, there it is right there, looking super clean. Okay, there it is. Boom, right just like that. Okay, so here it is. Here it is right here. This is the brand new Corsair 2500x. Their brand new case. Okay, so there we go. Everything for that. It's going to drop top down, and we'll start the build process starting right here. All the standoffs are already set correctly, which is nice. Look at that. Okay, time to put our fans together. Unlike the QX fans, so we'll have these, and then the rear fan and the exhaust fan will have the other ones. There we go. Okay, that's all it takes for that one. That's good. Now, we can do our bottom fans, which are gonna be pretty quick. And there it is, guys. Now we have all, look at that. Doesn't that look good? There we go. Okay, now we can put these. There we go. Okay, and we'll hook that up here in a minute, and then we'll get the IO mounted, which is what we're gonna do right now. And then we'll have the back connection. The shroud is making it. go. There we go. We'll hook up our 24 pin. There we go. And then we're going to take our, put this in. Question is, will it post? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh! Okay, so I really do believe we nailed the beauty and, well, the smallish form factor given we're using the new Corsair 2500x case and those fans. And, well, that MSI Project Zero motherboard really did result in a very clean looking build. But before I get ahead of myself, let's jump in and go over exactly what we put inside of this build. First off, what better way to push the RTX 4070 Ti Super than pairing it with the top selling and best gaming CPU in the market, the AMD Ryzen 7800X 3D. We also gave it plenty of RAM, probably a bit too much, with 64 gigs of Corsair Vengeance 6000 megatransfer RAM. Keeping on the Corsair train, we added lots of IQ Link components like the H150i to cool the CPU, and 7 RX 120 fans to give it a lot of airflow. Keeping this PC clean, we went with Back Connect for our motherboard using the MSI Project Zero B650, and finally, we got Corsair with the storage at 3 terabytes of MP600 Elite NVMe drives and an 850 watt RMPSU, and finally, the beautiful Corsair 2500X case. And all of this for $2,100, which is really awesome given that we have all IQ Link and it's a 7800X 3D / 4070 Ti Super build. Yes, we are obviously spending some money on bling, but it seems more palatable at this point given that you've got 3 terabytes of NVMe storage, 64 gigs of RAM, and that CPU and GPU combo. So now that we know the parts, and before we jump into the thermals and performance, let's talk about the airflow and how I actually set this build up. We wanted to make sure that we got a lot of airflow to all the critical components. So we did intake for the 2 side and bottom 120mm RX 120 fans, and we exhaust through the AIO at the top and the rear with that 120mm RX 120 in the back. We also have those 3 bottom fans providing additional air to the GPU when it needs it, but also feeding air up into the AIO along with the 2 side fans. So again, my usual slightly positive pressure situation for this case, which is good for dust, and you will see shortly also really good for temps. So that of course leads us to thermals. So let's kick it off with the CPU and see how this airflow configuration managed the 7800X 3D. For idle, it wasn't anything to write home about, sitting at around 39 degrees Celsius. When we popped things up to full load, we saw those things hovering around 81 degrees Celsius without PBO and a Cinebench score of 17,400. So definitely some room for PBO and any other tweaks we would want to do with the CPU. Finally, in gaming, we saw an average of around 68 degrees Celsius, which means your fans are near silent and an optimal gaming environment is in place. Okay, so CPU temps were good, but what about the temps on that Zotac 4070 Ti Super Trinity OC in white GPU? I mean, it looks really good, but really good looking doesn't necessarily mean it runs cool, especially even if it's white. Well, at idle, the answer is yes, it runs beautifully. It's not warm at all with 39 degrees, which is not bad at all. When we look at our gaming and under load temps, which are essentially the same thing, we saw things average around 66, and at the highest point, we saw things hitting 68 degrees Celsius. So yeah, no temperature issues whatsoever and great temps for both CPU and for GPU. Now, before getting into gaming performance, I did just want to spend some time talking about building inside of the Corsair 2500x, because Corsair did also sponsor the stream with all of the different parts. It's a bigger, smaller form factor case, if that's a thing, but because of its bigger girth, it doesn't suffer from the same build issues that smaller form factor cases suffer from. You never feel like you don't have room to work around inside of the case. And in places where you might see struggles, like for instance the side fans, Corsair provided removable brackets that make things easier. If you're into IQ Link, there is a lot to like with this case because there are plenty of cable paths specifically built for IQ Link cables, and the area at the bottom below where the PSU is, it provides room for things like cable wards and PSU cables, which is awesome. One thing worth noting is that even though the case is smaller, that doesn't necessarily mean it's lighter. It's definitely a heavier case, and you will feel it as you lift and move it around to build it. A couple of pain points though that are worth mentioning. The first is the bottom fans. This doesn't have a removable mount, which means the easiest way to install the fans is to flip it over and then have the case upside down. Given the side has a removable bracket, I'm not sure why Corsair decided to pass on this one. The last and semi-odd thing is that if you're doing a back connect motherboard, you have to remove the hard drive tray in order to plug in the CPU EPS connection, and it doesn't seem like you have a ton of room for cables if you're wanting to put the cage back in. So if you're wanting to install SSDs or HDDs, something to be leery of. Okay, Robey, you've given me almost the entire picture, but let's talk about gameplay performance. What do you got for me? Well, it's a little different from our normal passive games because Zotac and Nvidia obviously sponsored the stream, so we're looking at the latest titles that are supporting DLSS and other Nvidia technologies. So first off, let's kick this off with Cyberpunk 2077 on crack, aka it has path tracing, ray reconstruction, and all the bells and whistles. So at 1440p with everything cranked and no frame generation, we were hitting a nice and solid 68 FPS. Okay, so let's tone things down a bit and setting Cyberpunk to kind of the way it was meant to be played. No experimental stuff. This means ray tracing on ultra, DLSS set to balance, and again, no frame generation. Well, honestly, because we don't need it, because we were looking at 109 frames per second at 1440p. So finally, we wanted to just test RAW plus DLAA, which is deep learning anti-aliasing, which means no upscaling from DLSS, and again we have ray tracing in Ultra. And it's about the sharpest and cleanest you can make a game like Cyberpunk 2077 look. So how about 50 frames per second? So now if you wanted to, and you absolutely could, you could throw frame generation on to help improve frame rates, but it's really impressive how good the performance was on the Zotac 4070 Ti Super Trinity overclock card without frame generation in all those cases. I mean, dude, DLAA is no slouch. So next up, we played some Horizon Forbidden West. This is the PC port for the very popular PlayStation 5 title, and another game packed full of a ton of NVIDIA features like deep level super sampling, NVIDIA Reflex, and frame generation. Given how well Cyberpunk ran, I decided to kick things off just trying to make the game look its absolute best. So that means 1440p, all the graphics set to ultra, and using DLAA along with NVIDIA Reflex. That means no super sampling and making the world of Horizon Forbidden West look the best it can be. How does 100 frames per second sound? Good, right? It sounded really good to me, and just for good measure, we went ahead and popped on frame generation just to show that the game still looked incredible, but ran at a solid 150 frames per second. So the next game, the final game, is a game called Manor Lords. It's a new top-down strategy title from Slavic Magic with elements of city building and war strategy, and there is a lot of complexity and depth in this new title featuring DLSS and frame generation from NVIDIA. Guys, this game has been hugely popular, even more popular than the dev expected. Well, at 1440p, while I was looking to see how well my city supported flax and rye, Brian, have you ever heard of flax? This is the thing. It's so in-depth. I could see my oxen running around getting logs at a whopping 165 FPS with all the settings cranked. So even if I got some hot and heavy battle action, this rig could more than handle it. So there you have it. our last rig in this amazing series in partnership with Zotac and NVIDIA. Huge shout out to both of these companies for allowing us to build, showcase, benchmark, and then give away each of these systems via Gleam or just right here on stream. Now, if you want to check out the full build and see the entire benchmark process uncut, make sure you tune into the full live stream right here. But enough about what I think. What did you think? Were you impressed with the build? Did you like how it turned out? And what did you think about the design of the Zotac 4070 Ti Super? And what, if anything, would you change with this build? Let us know all that down in the comments below. Now, while you're down there, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss a video or giveaway like this one. And do you want to get more information on the build or discuss a build of your own? Then head on over to our Discord server at discord.gg/Robeytech, where you can meet other like-minded PC enthusiasts who love to chat about these very same things. Who knows? You might make a friend. Lastly, you can follow me on all the other social media channels at Robeytech absolutely everywhere. Thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.